Alright, so using your amp or multi-effects with amplitubes cabs. Well, this amp can do it, my little Joyo, because it has phones output. So what we do is we take our cable from here and just run it into our audio interfaces. Well, input 1 in my case, and we're set to go. Make sure start with volumes down. That's always a good safe thing to do, and also on your audio interface. And you can keep pedals in front of the amp and then in the loop, and after that we'll be seeing you can use the tone control of your amp, and when this is plugged into the phones it actually overrides, so I won't be hearing the speaker, so that's nice. And then we got a multi-effects unit like this, and what we do with this, well, same thing, guitar goes into the input and then we take the output out into our audio interface, and then when we put this on we just disengage the cab and use amplitubes, and I'll show that how that's done later on. Alright, so let's get into it, and first we'll check the amp and then we'll check how that sounds. Alright, so there we go, and let's take all the pedals out of the chain for a moment. We can see my pedal board here, and it's hooked up into the Joyo. So basically we are hearing the stuff that goes into my amp, so in front and in the effects, delay, reverb, and this multi-effects here, and in front some drives and so on. But we just have now the gain channel activated, so let's hear that. And yeah, so we got my amp there on the screen, we got amplitube here, and I've loaded a few of my own IRs. You can actually get free packs from my coffee shop here, so grab them out, you can test them, see what you like, and use them if you want. So somebody asked, using amplitube as a cab sim. Well, that's what we're doing now. And like in the beginning I said, there's two scenarios. So right now we're actually taking the amp headphone out into my audio interface. So when we do that, we can of course adjust the tone from the amp. So let's turn the tone all the way up. So there's a huge difference there. I'm gonna leave it there, and then we can mess around with the different cabs. So what we then do in amplitube, we disengage the amp and we go into the cabs. And how it would sound without these is, the sound would be this. So punk rock and so on. We necessarily don't want that. We want and I'm gonna engage the pedals here. So we're gonna hear some reverb and delay. And a tube screamer in front of the amp. As we can see here, I loaded my custom IRs. I got two cabs here. And You can mess around with the controls in the amplitube and make these sound totally different as well. So if we just take that cab and tweak the settings. Let's put the other one out of the chain. So yeah, it's totally different, the sound. Then, just for fun, I put an EQ here, so you could put that after the caps and then sculpt your sound with that too. So there we go. A lot of options with this, and right now we're trying the amp into this with all the pedals available. Why would you want to do this? Well, if you want to use your amp, but of course then you gotta have the necessary output from your amp. So you can't just take the speaker output. The amp has to be loaded with the speaker and or other stuff. So then, if you'd like to do, and your amp doesn't have like a headphone out or line out, then you'd need a load box, something like this. So if you have an older amp or something else, then yeah, this is what you need if you want to hook it up to your interface. But I have the headphone out in this small cool little Joyo amp, so that's what I did here. Again, it's just going straight from there to my interface input 1. Let's hear a little bit more. So let's take the other cap out and then hear the stock caps we have here instead of the custom ones. And 4x12s, of course. So let's take this and let's hear it. Let's bring the output up a little. So let's do that with the EQ. Pretty silver. Totally different already. What matters more than necessarily the amp is the speaker. So if you really want to change the way your tone quickly, take a different speaker. That's it. That's one of the quickest ways. Like don't mess around here too much. As we can hear, change the speaker. God damn, you're
Now,
there we go. That's how you can use your amp and then amplitube as a cab sim. And then let's take a look at the multi-effects pedal. So those amp emulations into amplitube, and we're going to use amplitube as a cab sim for that and hear how it sounds like. So there we go. We have the whole tone Ampero Mini, and we got a Boger amp. The cab is disengaged, and we're using amplitube as the cab sim. And if we would have the cab engaged, we would sound like. But for now, we could do a comparison. So let's see if we can find something similar here. And cab is... oh, it's impossible to say, I think. What? UK modern, UK green. I think that's a greenback. So then if we go back and we compare these. So let's put that cab on and disengage the cab from amplitube. And then let's take something with greenbacks from here. And we gotta, of course, check. So there we go, Brit green. I think these cabs emulate the same thing here. So we're gonna take that and let's see then how these sound in comparison. So and we actually have this on, so let's take that off. They do sound different. So there you go again. Like the quickest way, change your tone. Just change the cab, the speaker. Yeah. There we go. So you can use amplitube and that way as well. So if you're not happy with the cabs, you got a ton more options. And then of course with the impulse responses, even more. And those are available. You can find lots of them in the internet, free, paid ones. And like I said, there's some free on my shop as well. There you go. So I hope this was helpful. Now you know how to set things up if you didn't. And again, like then if you have some sort of vintage amp or whatever else, and you don't have the outputs necessary, then load box with routing is basically your only option. All right, I'm off. Have fun, and I'll see you next time.